I'm excited you're here. I'm excited to help you change your life here in this clinic. And what I would encourage you right now is actually just to silence your phones and pay attention for the next few minutes. Some of this information we share has the capacity to change your life, as it has many here in the clinic. So I'm going to go over a couple of x-rays, teach you just how you're going to get the best results here in this clinic right here. What you should know is that I myself grew up never seeing a chiropractor. I didn't know why you'd want to see a chiropractor. So when I had headaches or stomach aches or back pain, etc., I took medication. That's how I took care of my health when I was growing up. Now, what's interesting is that I've been married for 15 years. And when I got married to this pretty lady right here. And within our very first year of marriage, my wife was that girl that suffered with your regular headaches and sometimes even migraines. Okay, the kind where she'd get home from work, she's like, I got a headache. She puts a blanket over top of her head and she wants to go to bed for the night. Now, this was easily managed with some Advil at that point in time, but the point was that they kept coming back. No matter what, they kept coming back. And when all of a sudden it started to negatively impact our life in a way that, okay, now we weren't going out anymore, or different things were starting to happen that was slowing her down, that's when we were like, hey, we need to do something about this. And so we went to see a doctor, and doctor actually gave us more medication. And so with getting this medication now, we go on the medication, sure it helps, but again, that problem reciprocates. The problem with taking lots of medications over the course of time, it actually can have negative side effects. And all of a sudden now, through that process, my wife starts having stomach aches and she starts not being able to sleep at night and she starts having anxiety throughout the day, and all these other problems start showing up. And what happened was that a very short period of time, I watched my wife go from the beautiful bride I'd married to all of a sudden somebody was having a lot of health concerns and just feeling sick all the time. And so we started seeking out specialists. We started seeking out anything we could to fix that problem. And what happened was, the process of doing that, we saw all these different doctors over the course of 1 year. And over the course of 1 year, not only did she not get better, but she was actually put on 6 prescription drugs, taking a handful of pills every single day. And that's just what we knew at that point in time. It wasn't until a colleague of mine was like, you need to take your wife to go see my chiropractor. Now, here's the thing, we had actually heard good things. So we had seen 2 separate chiropractors that year and nothing had changed. And so I was still very leery. He says, no, go check a look at this one instead. And so we did at that point. We went and we sought this chiropractor out. And I'll never forget showing up there, sitting exactly in your chair, listening to this chiropractor speak, and start explaining some very basic principles here. Things we talked about last time. The fact that your brain is designed to heal everything, okay? And your brain heals everything through what's called your spinal cord. So you've got this brain and spinal cord right here that is communicating down out these nerves to every single organ, tissue, cell in your body. And so when we're looking at that master communication pathway, your spine has a particular structure. And that spine should be perfectly straight from the front, and from the side has these 3 curves, okay? And so we took a look at my wife's x-rays at that point in time. What had happened was that this is a normal looking curve on an x-ray right here. This was my wife's x-ray. She had lost 60% plus of that normal curve with a 13-degree curve in her neck. And he explained that what happens is that when you take a look at that spinal cord here, what's happening is you lose that curve, you can tether your spinal cord. And if you tether your spinal cord, it causes a stress response on the nerves traveling from your brain down the rest of your spine. And he says, this is slowing down your healing. And if we can simply but start to help you course correct this, regardless of the symptoms you're having, that you're going to restore that life healing flow back to your body. And I was like, this sounds awesome. It sounds completely different than anything we've done. Let's try it out. And so we went all in, and my wife started getting adjusted regularly there. In the beginning, 3 days a week. On top of that, still keeping up with everything she was supposed to do. And what happened over the course of the next couple of months, I watched my wife completely get rid of her headaches. But after about 3 to 4 months, she was actually off every single one of the medications that she'd been put on the year before. It had changed her life that much. Really need to find out that 6 months later, we go take her follow-up x-ray. This is actually her follow-up x-ray. So she's gone from here to here. How much better do you think her body's healing when the spinal cord now is operating much more thicker at this point in time, much more relaxed state. And that became such a major impact in our life at that point in time that I was like, holy cow, this has the power to really change people's lives. And it's not really relevant, but I think it speaks to the story that you should know that I was the firstborn member of my family. I worked in my father's business, which has gone on to be remarkably successful, and was already successful at that point in time. And needless to say, I would have been totally fine had I just stayed in that career, but I actually decided that we should sell our house. I quit that business and we moved off to the States to go to school for this so that we could come back and be in a better place to change other people's lives as well. And so here we are now 7 years into this practice, and we get to see that kind of transformation happen all the time. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through just a couple different things you need to understand. The fact is, when people take a look at their spines, they question how they got there, right? Well, the fact is, over the course of your life, we put a lot of stress stress on our spine, right? And when we put a lot of stress on our spine through all these different things, even as early as birth, when it's unmanaged, your spine has potential to start to shift and pull out of place. And as you pull out of place, then that can start to put a lot of strain on your nerves. And so when we come back and we take a look, then today, as we're looking, your spine is going to fall into one of these stages right here. As you can see, a normal's got this normal curve with a nice normal thick spinal cord right here. But as you can see, as you get worse through stage 1, 2, 3, and even 4, you can show how the tethering sensation happens much more, and then the degeneration sets in. So stage 1 right here, you can see that you can have this tethering of the spinal cord, but you still have healthy spaces. Well, stage 2 is where degeneration and arthritis starts to show up. And that's where that can start to become permanent damage that makes it a lot harder. Stage 3 is where it's pretty much riddled with arthritis, degenerative disc disease, almost bone on bone. And it is very difficult to do anything about at that point in time. We can only help manage. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, when I met people, no one wants to be in stage 3 with degeneration, pain traveling down their arms, you know, chronic pain and illness all the time like that. But we just get busy in life, and sometimes we stop to actually slow down and actually take care of our health. And so my goal is to help you course correct that before it ever happens. The fact is, though, is that you can even be in stage 1 and have no symptoms at all. Right? And so we want to make sure that understanding how your spine works, we want to make sure we understand how to help make sure you're always in peak capacity of health, not just feeling well. Next slide. So what I want to go over here is just right here where we saw stage 1 shown in the clinic right here. This is Jillian. Now when Jillian came to see me, Jillian would barely get out of bed before 12 o'clock every single day. She was in systemic pain all the time, okay? She had been to see every doctor. They had taken x-rays, done blood work. In fact, at this point in time, she was taking $400 a month worth of medication, and doctors actually thought she might have an autoimmune disease because they could not find anything wrong. Now, when she came in, what happened was we did that scan that we did for you, and we saw all this color going on. It's massive stress up in her neck, massive stress into her back. And so I thought we should take some x-rays to find out what's going on. And sure enough, at that point, we had taken a look at this x-ray here, and she had lost almost 100% of that normal curve in her neck. So I explained that, wait a second, if we can start to course correct this here, we can take the stress off the spinal cord and start to reduce this, and your body is going to heal better. I don't know what that looks like symptomatic wise, I just know you're going to heal, but it's going to take work. Naturally, she was desperate. She was barely eating cereal, she barely mustered herself to work, and she was missing a lot of time, and so she was ready. Well, we started getting her moving, getting corrected. Within the space of about 6 months right here, we were able to take her spine from the curvature as before up to this near perfect curvature right here, okay? And as we were able to do that, what happened is that stress off her spinal cord dramatically changed how well her body was able to manage. You can see with a nice white screen scan here, at this point in time, Jillian was getting up at 8 o'clock every day. She was meal prepping, she was going to the gym, she was living her best life at this point in time and had completely gotten rid of her pain. And so as she was able to teeter off medications because of that, you can imagine she was quite ecstatic about it. And from there forward now, it's just about maintaining this amazing state of health in order to stay like that. Now what I'd like to do is take a look at the front side of the spine too. Next patient. When I take a look here, what do you notice with the spine right here? Right off the bat, if you're seeing what I'm seeing, you see an 11 and 10 degree sideways shift. Now there's an 11 and 10 degree sideways shift. That's taking this vertebra right here. It might be a little hard to see, but it's clamping like that. So if you can imagine there's stress on these nerves down here, right in here, those nerves are going to control what can you imagine would be happening? Yes, back pain. You can expect that. But on top of that though, these same nerves down here also control things like these organs in here and these organs. So we can start to see other concerns arise when that becomes the case, right? Here's the interesting thing about this individual, right? Yes, this individual, James, was having back pain, but what's interesting about James is that James, when I talked to him, James was struggling to keep up with work. He had twin girls that he wanted to play with, and he wasn't able to do that. And that's when he was like, I just need some help right now. But James had been seeing a chiropractor regularly for quite some years. So you ask yourself, wait a second, if he's seeing chiropractor regularly, how is it possible his spine gets to this place right here? Well, the fact is that what happens all too often is that people come in to different chiropractors with a lot of amount of benefits, and they've got like $500 worth of benefits. And what happens, they'll come in, they start getting adjusted, and they'll be able to get X amount of care for a short period of time. And when they do that, sure, you're gonna get rid of the symptoms, but oftentimes that still leaves you never actually fully correcting what was going on at that point. And so they'll get to this place right here, and all of a sudden they start to go backwards, and they get back to this place, and they kind of do this thing over and over again. That's where we look to expand beyond that. That's where we look to make sure that when I take a look at your spine, I'm not predicating this moment your benefits cover, but more specifically what you need to do to get maximum change. And so what happens is when we're able to do that, then we actually correct the spine, and we're able to maintain this peak state of health here. And that's my goal for you. So I sat down with James and was like, James, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to keep going down this road, or are you ready to actually correct it this time? And he says, no, you know what, this is completely impacting my life. I'm ready to make a major change. So James started, and we started getting him adjusted. In the beginning, it was twice a week, and then it was able to drop down to once a week. But over the course of around 4 months' time, we were able to take his spine from where it was you just saw to right here, went from 11 and 10 to just 4 degrees right here. And that was a major transformation. And James, 50 years old. So even when you feel like, okay, time has passed you by a little bit, we're still able to make that change to massively impact your nervous system. Next slide, please. And so beyond that now, as you can imagine, it's going to be much easier to maintain a better state of health for James moving forward here with a spine that looks much, much healthier. One of the last x-rays I want to show you right here was just an example of a guy that came in a bad state. Faen's 23 years old when he comes in. You can see he's got this 22-degree scoliosis and a negative 7-degree curvature in his neck, okay? With that kind of tension on his nervous system, you can imagine that there was a lot of stress going on here, okay? Faen had been in the hospital for 2 months suffering with health from his spine, okay? On top of that, he was taking 14 medications when he went to see me, okay? So when I sat down with him, I recognized that some of this has been happening for a long period of time. Okay, and so what we had to do then is teach him how to course correct this, and I told him it was going to take time and effort to make that happen. Now, Faen lived on the end of the city, so not only that, but getting here was also a challenge. But at this point in time, he had taken a year off school because of how bad his health has gotten. He was willing to do whatever it took. And so we were like, okay, let's tackle this, let's make it happen. Now, I told Faen it was going to take time, effort, and money, right? But he didn't care. It was his health, and that was important to him. And so he started getting adjusted regularly, started coming 3 days a week, dropped down to once a week. It took us 3 months just to get his neck straight, let alone add a curve back into it. 1 year, okay? 1 year. Next slide. What you can see here, one more, is that his spine has gone from this -7 up to a 24 degrees. His 22 degrees has gone down to 14 degrees right here. Faen had come off of all 14 of his medications. He was now living his best life. He's back at school pursuing his career, and he was able to make crazy changes. Now, he spent about $4,000 on his spine that year, okay? So that's a lot. That's a big investment on his health, but it changed his life. Okay, you've come in at a terrific time though, because we have streamlined a lot of process. The new exercises we give you to take home with, the new vibration plates we've got, the traction units, all this designed to speed up how fast we're able to change your spine these days. So that's amazing for you. All we ask is that you commit to those exercises we ask you to do at home, as well as your time here, and we're able to help you make change. Last slide here is right here, a little x-ray of this little curvature right here. What you can imagine is that this spine could very well have back pain, it could have other problems down here, etc. But you need to know that this little girl was 6 years old and it was not a symptom in the world. So it's not a symptom in the world. What does that suggest? That suggests then that we look at people that are symptom free and we think to ourselves, they must be healthy. But I look at this, and given the other cases I've seen here, even just today, you know that long term, this could be a problem. She might live to be 100 years old with never a symptom, or she could go backwards and start to have lots of different concerns. Regardless, that's why we check families here, okay? We don't typically try to take x-rays of kids, but where possible, we want to see where red flags are. We want to help them course correct us. So that's why we see families. This little girl in just a couple of months right here was able to go to, one more click, was able to go to a spine that was almost perfectly straight here. Imagine the outlook on the rest of her life right there, right? Next slide, which is why my entire family has been getting adjusted now, most of them since birth. This is the way we manage and maintain our health to make sure everything's communicating properly. So we're gonna go and sit down right now. If you wanna grab one of the team members, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna go over your x-rays, I'll show you what stage you're in, we're gonna talk about how to correct that. And my goal is just to help you make massive changes in your health and then help you maintain a better state of health for the rest of your life. So I'm excited for you, let's get tackling it.